It's helping a lot, not being so hot.
Hi.
Last year, my friend of 41 years, Leanne Shore, and I decided to take a nature trip to celebrate our 54th birthday. We have never been on a trip together by ourselves. We always had our kids or our husbands with us when we went. So on the third day of our trip, we decided to go kayaking. Leanne has been kayaking many times, but I have never been kayaking. However, since we are both about the same physical capabilities, we thought there'd be no problem for me to kayak. So we go to the kayak rental place, and they take us down to the river where the put-in spot is, and said they would pick us up 4 hours later from the downriver where they were going to pick us up. So I get in the kayak, and it's really not that hard. I got my balance, and everything was smooth. The water wasn't deep. It was about waist deep. The current was a nice, calm current, and we head out down the river. It was a beautiful fall day. There was no people around because school had just started, and it was the middle of the week. And the fall foliage was gorgeous. The birds were singing. So we broke out the wine coolers because we had brought a 6-pack of wine coolers with us because when we were in high school, we used to always take wine coolers down to the lake. So we floated along, drinking our wine coolers. We'd had about 2.5 wine coolers each when all of a sudden the water started flowing really, really fast. And there was big boulders, and I was having to try to maneuver around those boulders with my oar. And then all of a sudden there was this huge swirling whirlpool with large tree limbs and leaves and twigs all just swirling around, and it just sucked me into it. And my kayak just flipped over, and I flipped out, and I went under the water. And when I came up, my glasses fell off. And then when I came up, I was under the kayak, and I pushed the kayak off my head, and I got my bearings. I realized I could still touch bottom. The water was just about chin deep. And so I made my way for like 20 feet over to this like sandy beach on the left side of the river. And about the time I got to the beach, I looked over, and there's Leanne. She's like dragging against the current her kayak back up, trying to get to me to get onto the sandy beach, and she had lost her oar. She fell down onto the sandy beach about the same time I did, and we both just started cracking up laughing. We were cracking up. And then all of a sudden she just got stiff, and she said, "Susan, OMG, do you realize that we are in the middle of nowhere? We have one kayak with no oars, and we are drunk." So I just stopped laughing. I got serious, and we started thinking, how are we going to get out of this situation? All of a sudden, Leanne climbs up on this big rock, and she starts looking out over where that swirling whirlpool was. And she said, "I think I see something." And she jumped down, and she started going over there through that tall, hard, rushing water. And I was screaming, "Leanne, be careful." She got over there, and she pulled out my kayak out of the middle of that whirlpool, and she pulled out my oar. And I jumped in the water, and I started heading towards to her, and I helped her get back with my equipment. And we hooked the kayaks together, and she got in the front using the oar, and I got behind her, and I was using my hands like oars and doing like this as fast as I could to try to help propel us through the water as we made it down to the pull-out point. And the moral of the story is, there is nothing like a good friend when you're on the river in a kayak. How's that?
Let's send it to press.